We are starting. Good morning, Rabbi Sai. לעילוי nishmas imi merasi rusbas Mordechai. Today's shir is being sponsored by three people. By Robert Lynx, לעילוי nishmas Ezra Yisroel ben Yitzchak Tzvi Alevi Lynks, whose seventh yartzeit is today. This also gives me a special honor that I know he's still here. That's great. By an unnamed sponsorship in honor of Moshie Apter. You guys remember Moshie Apter? The young bacher from Montreal, the guy with the goat and the what else did he have? He has a chavrusa with his rabbit. Although he's away in yeshiva, which due to COVID moved to a very remote, freezing cold property near the U.S.-Canadian border, Moshie calls in every day to learn the daf with this awesome shir. Kol hakavod. Wow, I didn't know this. Moshie, kol hakavod. Also, Zchus. This is, I know who sponsored this. This is not a person that's related to Moshie at all. A guy that cares. Another Bal Chesed. Also, the Zchus Refuah Shelaima from Moshie's 3-month-old cousin. Listen to this. Yeshaya ben Rivka Shprintza, 3 months old, who was recently diagnosed with stomach cancer. Yosef Mevorach, Eli nishmas, Yosef ben Nizhah. Yartzeit is today. The neshama should have an aliyah. Okay. Rabbi Sai, I started saying this the other day on Friday, and I rudely interrupted myself. It was the day that I reached a milestone in my life, 450 straight shiurim, preparing a shir every day for 450 days. I would have never believed I could do 20 in a row, let alone 450. But what I start to say is that it's a true partnership, be'emes, a true partnership, and that is that the guys in the shir give me that push, and I in turn give the shir to them. So it's a 50-50. It's a partnership. You give me, it's a give and take. I called up a couple people on Friday, left the messages, the people that do the chesed behind the scenes. It gives me tremendous chizuk, and it gives me that push. Today is a tough day for me, a really tough day. My brother, who I'm extremely close to, we spent almost every yontif together, Pesach and Sukkot. When I lived in America, they would come to us, to Chicago, we go to them. He's making his first chasana today, tomorrow. And we have tickets to go. I have this dilemma, this debate, to go, not go. How do I come back? The skies are open tonight, they're not open. There's a lot of corona in New York. Huge chasana, no masks. And one of the big factors is the shir. And the shir gives me chizuk. It's like, okay, I have an achrayus, and as much as I would love to be there, and that's one of the cheshbainas. So I want to read this email that gave me tremendous amount of chizuk. And I encourage people to send in these emails, because not only does it give other people chizuk, it gives me chizuk, it gives me that push to keep on going every day. Rebelli. I didn't want to write, since I like to keep anonymous, to stay in the background learning from others. But my neighbor, Mrs. Catch, encouraged me to write to you, since this might be encouragement for another person like me to begin to learn more, enjoy it, and take the Yerusha of Torah seriously. Hopefully, earlier than later in their life. I'm also mechuyev to express my akar satay for all that you do for me and Klall Yisrael. Since my wife found you on YouTube at the beginning of brachas, when I was searching for Daf Yomi shir that fit my time scale, you see the wives are very involved there. I have missed only a few days when I was in the hospital. I thought of myself as a Pasha Yid who at 68 years old didn't have the smarts to seriously understand Gemara. I attended a Mishnah and Gemara shir on Shabbos, now on Zoom, and recite Tehillim daily, and read Parsha and Musasvarim. That was about the extent of my learning since I work long hours. I was what you call an Amaretz. However, you have changed my perspective of myself. I am still an Amaretz, but I'm understanding more and more about mitzvahs, both their source and performance. Now, when reciting brachas, I slow down, have more kavanah, and think of what I'm saying, and more importantly, before who I am blessing. I just started discussing with my wife the importance of yashan, and what it would take to use only yashan flour and products. I don't know where that will go to, but now I know it's an inyan to reckon with. I am taking small steps at a time. It's about the Yomi. Just know, it is your way of presenting with clear explanations and the charts that opens up sugyas, psukim, halachas, and minhagim that I thought would remain closed to me. Although a lot flies over my head during the shir, I do find myself grasping a few gems that I can put in my hip pocket. Think about and make it mine for the day. For example, the discussion about anger every Sunday morning after I say, okay, so anger, we just discussed anger. Every Sunday morning after I recite Tehillim, I read the Rambam Zigeres to remind me of the dangers of kas. You brought it home even more and made it real. Well, this is too long already. So just know that I appreciate all you do for me in the Chabura. And yes, I also appreciate all those behind the scene. Gary, Yehoshua, Noam, Avi, and all the others. He's talking about you guys up there, and Yosef, and Reuven Chait, and everybody that's involved. To bring you into my home and life. Kol Tov, Mordechai Chaim Karen. Wow, Geschmacke email, thank you very much. 68-year-old. The daf has made a tremendous impact in his life. All right, we are holding today's daf Ayin Aleph, 70 daf into Masechtas Pesachim. It was just 70 days ago, Dr. Factor, we were in your backyard, 70 days ago. Can you imagine like this? What is the hardest mitzvah in the Torah to keep? The hardest mitzvah. We're going to be learning about it in a second. Omar Ula. Omar Rebbe Lazar, we have to remember. Ula says in the name of Rebbe Lazar. Later on, we're going to have Ravin saying in the name of Rebbe Lazar. They're going to say the exact opposite. Each one heard the Rebbe say it slightly different.
Hardest mitzvah, loy sachler.
It's not a mitzvah, it's an aveir.
It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, loy sachler.
It's a loy sachler.
It's a mitzvah, loy sachler. Say. What you got to say? If you want to say,
Not say. A mitzvah. A mitzvah is a say. I want to say. Shlamim sheshachtam me'erev yantav eino yortzeit b'hem loy mishum simcha v'loy mishum chagiga. So, we had yesterday, for those of you who weren't here, Matzah Shabbos.
I'm not here, okay?
So this is for you. Here. Oh, let me ask you. You learned the daf by yourself. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I don't care.
How many korbanos does one have to bring on Pesach? Not only his korban Pesach, but he also has to bring other korbanos. I don't want to put you on the spot. I went around on Shabbos, I asked people. Very good. What else? What was the big sugi yesterday? So people that didn't do the daf, I went over them to stam to shtach them. Everybody like korban Pesach. What else? Chatas, one guy tells me. Talmud Chacham, chatas. No. Mashiach is coming, you don't know what you're talking about. You better come to the daf immediately. Here's the list. Korban Pesach, Oila Sriya, you're mechuyev to bring, every single person must bring a Oila. And every single person must bring a Chagiga, the 15th. There's 2 Chagigas we learned yesterday. There's the 14th, Arba Asar and Chamesha Asar. You cannot be mishtatev with your kids. Each one in your family has to bring their own Chagiga, their own Oila Sriya. Korban Pesach, you could be a partner, you could be part of a group. Now there's also a mitzvah to eat, Shalmei Simcha. Carbon. Every single day of Yantif, you must eat a little bit of a carbon. Where you get that carbon, you're not mechuyev to make it. If you have extra carbon left over, fine. So these are the 5 potential karbanos. The 3 that you're mechuyev to: Pesach, Oila Sriya, and Chagiga of Tesvav. We learned yesterday, Chagiga of Yudalit is only to fill yourself up, so you don't eat. So you eat the carbon ala soiva. Says the Gemara, according to Ula, which he heard from his Rebbe. Shlamim sheshachtam erev yantiv. What if you have a shlamim? Nothing to do with anything. Just a carbon shlamim. You had one laying around and you shechted it on the 14th. Eino yortzeit b'hem loy mishum simcha v'loy mishum chagiga. Listen to this. This carbon that you must eat, taste, every single day of yantiv, cannot be from a carbon shlamim, a random carbon that you brought erev yantiv. And it could also, you cannot use a random shlamim, erev yantiv, for the chagiga, this chiyuv that you have to bring a chagiga on Tesvav, on the first day of Yantiv. You cannot just use it. Chagiga, what is a chagiga? What kind of carbon is a chagiga? Is it an oila? No. What is it? It's a shlamim. So I would think that a random shlamim, I have a shlamim, I brought a shlamim on the 14th of Nisan. So no, use it for chagiga? No way. Chagiga is special for chagiga. Why? Mishum v'lo mishum chagiga, mishum simcha, V'loi mishum chagiga, mishum simcha, why not? V'zovachto v'samachto. You shecht it, and you are happy with it. Bi'inon zvicha b'shas simcha v'leka, you must shecht it, and then be happy. Mishum chagiga havedavar shebechayva. V'chol davar shebechayva einoi ba ela menachol. So we have two things here. First of all, you can't use the random shlamim for your shalmei simcha. Shalmei simcha must be shechted on yontif, says Ula, in the name of Rebbe Lazar. Now we're going to discuss that. Must be shechted on yontif for yontif. What? No. And here's the hard mitzvah we just mentioned. We mentioned it, we'll see it in a second. So what about chagiga? Use the shlamim for chagiga. Chagiga tezvav. And since you are obligated to bring a special carbon called a carbon chagiga yontiv, so anytime you have an obligation, you have to bring it from chulin. You can't just say, oh, here's a shlamim I shechted on erev yontiv, and I want to use that as my chagiga. That's not good. It has to be a chulin animal. Can't even be something that's hegdish. Says the Gemara, I have a raya l'chayra to this Rebbe Lazar, to Ula, in the name of Rebbe Lazar. It says in the pasuk, Vayiso ach someach. You must be happy the entire yontiv. Says the Vilna Gaon. That's the hardest mitzvah in the Torah. That's the Vilna Gaon. To be so happy. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what happens with me. I come to the sukkah. It's so beautiful. The decorations, the picture, the kids, everything, the food. You make kiddush. It's so gewaldig. Then the kid spills the wine on you, and I'm like, no. I'm so b'simchas gishmak. You know when I lose it? Every year I lose it at the same time. Come to shul, and the Gabbai gives a big clap on the beam. He says, Rabbi Yisai, we're doing a shanas now. Everybody in a straight line, and we go around. All of a sudden, that one guy, he cuts everybody off. And I go, Meshuggah, my yucky head. What are you, better than me? And because of you, I'm going to be 2 psukim late. I'm not going to get to the bima. He has to finish. That's when I lose. Every single year, I go, Meshuggah. You got to be, I'm kidding. I don't really go crazy. Whatever. I go over to him. I whack him in front of the whole thing. I do not cut the line. The whole shul cuts the line. I don't cut the line. Never cut the line once. He has to get to the Aron Kodesh exactly when we finish. That second, as he says the last word, he finishes. He's holding everybody up. No, if you do a traffic study in New York, you'll see that all the people are cut off. It doesn't cause the people in the back to be late. For some reason, it doesn't. I don't know why. Anyway, that's when I lose it. It is a tremendous mitzvah. It's very, very hard. Ach is gematria 21 days of Yontif, 21 days from Rosh Hashanah to the end of this. The Vilna Gaon says also, if a person is mekayim this, then he'll be b'simcha the entire year. Zok the Gemara. V'yis ach sameach l'rabbis leile Yontif ha'achrein l'simcha. Over here, all of a sudden, ach. We know ach v'rak is a miyot. It's a riboy leile Yontif ha'achrein l'simcha. That even Shmini Atzeres, there's a special mitzvah to be sameach. Okay? Even the 8th day. Who told you? Maybe he's coming to say that even the first night. Now, what's the chiddush in the first night? You can't shecht on the first night. How could you shecht the korban on the first night? You don't shecht korbanos at night. Elamai, you shecht it in the daytime. Tamaloymar ach, we'll see in a second. Ach cholak. No, it's a miyot. My timer. La mishum de ein loy b'mei yismach. So we have the first night and we have the last night. Ach sameach tells us, one day you don't do simcha. Which one is it? The last one or the first one? I'll tell you, it must be the first one that you don't eat these. You don't do a simcha. You don't have shalmi simcha. Why? Because you cannot shecht before Yontif. So what does that tell me? Like Rebbe Lezer. Rebbe Lezer said you cannot shecht a korban shalmi. You can't be yartzeit shalmi simcha with something you shechted before Yontif. So here, the first night of Sukkot, I have nothing to eat. I can't shecht it before, and I can't shecht it now because it's already Yontif. It's nighttime. I can't shecht. Oh, that's a great raya to Rebbe Lezer, because if Rebbe Lezer is wrong, then I do have a korban that I could eat Sukkot night, the first night, something I shechted in the morning before. Loi, kedetani taima. Just go weiter in the Brisa, you'll see pshat. Don't tell me your own pshatim. Why is it that the first night you don't eat shalmei simcha? Okay, a simple svara. I'm already in simcha, I'm already going. Okay, so add a little bit that night. Rashi says only that night, not the following morning. There's no simcha shmini atzeres during the day. Only at night. Fine. A little bit makes sense. I'm already in the mood. I'm already good. I already have practice. 7, 8 days. I already went through all the hishanis and I didn't get mad and all the wine and all the people stepped on me. Huh? Yeah. Oh, we'll see in a second. We'll see in a second. Hold on. Let's see. We're not done yet. Of course, there's a mitzvah to be sameach. But it's much more difficult to start it up beforehand. Masa Rav Yosef, ask Rav Yosef Kesher. Chagigas arba'as or yortzeit bo mishum simcha. Simcha, you're yortzeit with the chagig of the 14th. So let's go back for a second. One of the karbanos is called chagig arba'asar, and that we had a whole sugi yesterday. That if you don't have enough meat on your carbon pesach, you have this huge group, 100 people. Each person can take a kazayis. The mitzvah is to eat the carbon pesach when you're full. Not 1,000% full, but 98%, and that just tops it off. So how do I get to that position? I eat a carbon chagiga called the carbon chagiga of Yudalid. And we had bentema yesterday that says the carbon chagiga is identical almost to carbon pesach in terms of all the halachas. You only eat it for one night, one day. You can't break a bone. All these things. Says the Gemara. Over here comes Rav Yosef. Chagigas arba'as or yortzeit bo mishum simcha. You could, even though you shechted it. When do you shecht the carbon arba'asar? It seems like it's called a chagiga arba'asar, meaning when do you shecht it? An arba'asar. And it says mefurish, yortzeit bo mishum simcha. This is good enough for this shalmei simcha carbon all the way in the bottom of the list, something that I shechted before Yantiv. Ben yortzeit bo mishum chagiga. Okay, something I shechted on the 14th is not good for the chagiga. But according to your pshat in Rebbe Lazar, that I have to shech the animal, the shalmei simcha. I must do the shechita on Yantav itself. So what are you telling me that you shechted it on the 14th? It's not good on the 14th. It has to be in a time of simcha, b'shas simcha. It must be shechted on the 15th. Ravidi Baravin. She'ike bushchata. Oh, you think that a chagiga of the 14th means that he did the shechita on the 14th? No, he did the shechita on the 15th. It's called a chagiga of the 14th because it goes together with a carbon pesach. And the chiddush is, I could use this carbon chagiga, which I shechted on the 15th, at the time of simcha. So what's the big chiddush? I shechted on the time of simcha. You know what the chiddush is? Why did you shecht it? Think about it. What was in your head when you shechted the carbon chagiga of the 14th on the 15th? What was in your head? You need it for extra meat for the carbon pesach. You never thought in it for a second that you're going to be using it for this carbon called shalmei chagiga, the shalmei simcha. The chiddush is you don't need to have that in mind. It's enough they have in mind as a chagiga for the 14th to go together with the carbon pesach. And derech agav, if you have left over, you're going to use it here for the shalmei simcha. Omer Ravash Yochanan Mistabra. This makes a lot of sense. Who said this whole brisa? We already established yesterday. It goes according to Bentema. Bentema hapasala belina. So, if we go by what we had yesterday, let's see here. This, by the way, I did. It shouldn't go lehevel v'rik v'zavachta v'samachta. Okay, you see that one. Ooh, here's another one I missed. Because, did we learn this sugi already? Hay b'chagecha v'yisa achsa meyar v'samachta b'chagecha v'yisa Hay v'samachta b'chagecha v'yisa achsa meyar I want to show you something very interesting. We sing V'samach b'chagecha v'yisach sameach. But guess what? There's 29 words between V'samach b'chagecha v'yisach sameach. This is Pasuk Yudal, this is Pasuk Tesvav. There's a huge gap in here. Okay, they have nothing to do with Simcha. I mean, sort of, but that's the song. But this goes together. V'samach b'chagecha v'yisach sameach is a miyut, as we said. Great. Now, let's go. I'm looking for this one over here. Ben Teima says that you shech the carbon right over here, and you only get to eat the chagiga of the Yudalid at night. Just like a carbon Pesach. It's a shlamim. A shlamim usually could eat it for 2 days and 1 night, but since it goes together with the Pesach, so you only get 1 night. We pointed out that a carbon Pesach only gets a night, doesn't even get a day. Because you shecht it over here, but you can't eat it over here, you could only eat it at night. Okay. Fine. Ben Teima, pasal labelina. How could you say they eat it for a night and 2 days? He says it's shma mina. So fine. Ben Teima, pasal labelina. Shma mina. Mosav Rabba. Hahalav simcha shmoina. Saying halal, simcha. What's simcha? Eating the shalmi simcha. 8 days. And if what you're saying, the top line on this Amud, b'shas simcha, you have to shecht it when you are happy. What do you mean? The halal and simcha is for 8 days. There's many times where it only lasts for 7 days. When? What if the first day of Yontif falls out on Shabbos? I cannot shecht the carbon. After I come home from shul, it's already nighttime. You just told me that the only time you could shecht this carbon is when it's already Yontif. It's too late. It's night. I can't. I have to wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow is already. I lost a day. So why are you telling me that you're doing simcha for 8 days? It's only 7 days. Now, what if Shabbos fell out in middle of the week? That's not a problem. I shecht the carbon when on erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos is Yontif. It's chalamayit. It's Yontif. That's fine. The problem is, says Rava, but what if Shabbos falls out on the first day of Yontif? Then I don't have 8 days, I only have 7 days. There's something else. Every Yontif, I have to bring a chatas tzibur. How much meat is on a chatas tzibur? How many pounds? 5 pounds. He says 5 pounds. We'll go with him. 5 pounds. Is 5 pounds enough for all of Klall Yisrael? Says Rav Yehuda, Misamcha, you know how you do simcha? Every single person, millions of people in Klall Yisrael, they're going to use the sir haragolim, this one chatas tzibur, however many it is, I don't care, 13, whatever. It's not enough meat. I have 2 big questions on what you're saying. Chada, the sir haragolim, chayne echolim, tzolei echolim. First of all, when did you shecht it? You shechted this chatas on Yontif. So, I have to eat it like this. I have to eat it raw. Raw is not a simcha. Okay, and even I'll tell you, you know what? People eat sushi, they eat raw meat. It's fine. It's good. I can be b'simcha.
Eat it all the time.
Kapachi. But at the end of the day, I have another question. What about the Israelim? They can't eat the chatas. The chatas is only for the kohanim. Hello, Papa, you hear what's going on here? There's another simcha. The mitzvah is to be happy. How? With clean clothing. Yeah, not that stained. Clean clothing, nice clothing. Yayin Yoshan. Just remember that. Good geschmack of wine.
Not hard to do this mitzvah. Still. Big deal.
No, it means you can't be upset b'chlal.
Big deal. So far we still didn't get any hard mitzvah.
Okay. I want to see you be happy. Look,
It didn't say anything about
you can't even go through 10 minutes in shir without getting upset. And you want to go 8 days in Sukkot? Ha! I got you. Checkmate, end the story. Dr. Factor liked that one. They're all laughing in the back over there. They're shaking their head, I'm right. They're shaking, look at you. I can be happy. I can be happy 8 days straight. 8 days straight, I can be mad.
the happiest person in the world.
You know what it is? It's like the prisoner going,
Like you.
nishmas Hashem b'simcha. V'yisach someach. All right. Kiyasa Rav and Amar Rabbi Lazar. Now, before we had Ula in the name of Rabbi Lazar, now we have Ravin in the name of Rabbi Lazar. Shlamish shachtam erev yantiv. Yartzeit mishum simcha. He says, Mamish Fakert. I heard Rebbe, our Rebbe, Rabbi Lazar says, Mamish, the opposite of what you said. If you shecht any random shlamim before Pesach starts, you can use it for this Shalmei Simcha. What's Shalmei Simcha? You need to eat meat, any meat, take out a steak, as long as there's a carbon, not any meat. As long as there's a carbon, so who cares when you shecht it? You shecht it before Yontiv. It's a carbon. I'm eating now on Yontiv meat. Every day you have to eat some meat, carbon meat. Okay, that I'll give you, that you're not yotzei this chagiga called the chagiga tesvav, because, as we said, we're going to explain again, and now we're just going to repeat the sugi we had before. Yotzei mishum simcha, lo be'inon zvicha b'shav simcha. He doesn't hold to this concept that you have to do the shechita on Yontiv. You get the shechita before Yontiv. V'lo mishum chagiga. Why can't you use this random shlam that I shechted on the Yudalid? Have a davar shebechayva. V'chol davar shebechayva ein ba elo min hachulin. Something that you must bring, then you have to. It's an obligation to bring a carbon chagiga, right? Now we are Talmidei Chacham, we're not Amoritzim anymore, so we know this coming Pesach, when we come to the Beis Hamikdash, we have to bring not only a carbon Pesach, but we also have to bring a carbon chagiga, not only for me, but for my kids. If my kid is 10 years old, I have a 10-year-old, I have to give him a carbon chagiga also as chinuch. Kids, it's an expensive thing. My chavrusa, 10 karbanas, I don't know how many. No, he only has girls. Fine. A lot of karbanas. And another $500. Meisvei. By the way, I saw people discuss this, not the time now because we're running out of time. But what if a person, very interesting, person makes a neder that he's going to fast for 25 days. In the middle of the 25 days is Shivas B'Tammuz. Could I count that as one of the things? Because now it's a chayva. I have to fast. Tisha B'Av. I have to fast until Yom Kippur. But I promised, so it's a chayva. I'm sorry, the chayva that I promised I'm going to fast, could I be yotzei with other things that are anyways there? And the answer is yes. Different questions like that. A woman, it's mamish in the Maril, woman promised she's going to go to a certain caver. And she never was Mekayim her neder. And then she happened to be there just by accident. She's yotzei anyway. Okay, things like that. But from this line, the chol davar shebechayva, if I must bring a carbon in a bailam and a chulin, but it has to be that I'm bringing it from other things, not because I already brought a carbon. Meisvei. V'yisa ach someach l'rabois leili yontav ha'achrin l'simcha. Now I can bring this. Okay, where is it? Here, we'll pretend we never showed it. Oh, it says v'yisa ach someach l'rabois. This comes to include Shmini Atzeres. Maybe it's going to include the first night that I have to eat Shalmei Simcha. Ach is to be mimayit always. Ach v'rak are mimayit. My taima, that's all in Rabbi Pessin's Sefer. My taima, lav meshum de einloi b'mei yismach. Isn't it because we hold like this shita that says you have to shecht on Yontif, not before. Loi. It says Mefurish in the Brisa, the explanation, not your explanation. So it makes a lot more sense to say that Shmini Atzeres, I'm already b'simcha. I already have practice. 7 days, just continue. Omer Rav Kana. Oh, so you have the Imurim, you have these things that you have to bring on to the Mizbeach. How do you know that they become puzzle right over here? So let's say I shech the animal here. All the fats, all the things I have to put on the Mizbeach, they become puzzle right away that night. After the first night. Shenemar v'lo yolin chelev chagi ad boiker v'samachlei reishis. Here, let's not forget this chart. It says two psukim one after another. Pasuk Yitches Yites. V'lo yolin chelev chagi ad boiker. You should not leave overnight the chelev. Those are the imurim that you bring onto the mizbeach. And then this pasuk has nothing to do with the carbon. Reishis bikuri ad mascha, talking about fruit. but it says Reishis. Which morning? So if I have different mornings, I could be over here, this morning over here. No. Right by the first morning of Tazayin, it's already over. I can't use it anymore. That's what the pasuk is coming to say. It's the first morning. Rav Yosef, time of the Kos of Reishis, Cholei Kos of Reishis, have Amina. So Rav Yosef, and Rav is going to go on to explain what Rav Yosef means. So let's remember this Rav Yosef. Ask Rav Yosef a simple question. Time of the Kos of Reishis, Cholei Kos of Reishis. You need a special pasuk. We said here because it says Reishis. I know it means the first morning. Cholei Kos of Reishis, have Amina. My boiker sheni. I would have a Amina that I could bring the chaylev onto the Nizhah all the way over here. Second morning. Over here, says the Gemara, is it possible that the meat, I can't eat the meat past this night? We know that emurim are much more chamor than meat. So if meat you can't eat past this point, how could I bring the emurim onto the Mizbech over here? Who's Abaya? The famous Talmud that always used to remind his Rebbe of Yosef when he forgot things. Why not, says Rabbi to his Rebbe? Very Pesach. The Rebbe Lazar ben Azariah the Basal of Salim Chatzois, Veimur Matzafra. We're very familiar with this halacha. We eat Dafikoim, Chatzois. What's Chatzois? This sheet over here, that the carbon Pesach could only be eaten not until the morning, halfway through the night. That's it, you're done. When do I bring the imurim onto the mizbeach? Past that. So if here you see the imurim, even though imurim are more chomer than the actual meat, the meat stops earlier than the imurim. So what's your big kasha? Oh, how's it possible? Why would I have such a having here? Pesach is a good raya. Omarava, Rav Yosef hachiko kashilei. And now the Gemara goes into a very long arichos, not hard, but long, until we get to what Rav is talking about. Miike midi, di lutana lebasar, the Tana says, when it comes to meat, you don't need a pasuk. And according to Rav Kahana, you do need reishis. What's going on here? Says the Gemara like this. The Sanya. Now we're turning to Daf Ayin Aleph Amud Beis. Limedal chagigas yudalit shenecheles l'shnei yomim velayla echad. So we have here basically 3 times. V'layalin min habotzar shetizbach ba'erev bayom harishon laboiker. So the chagiga, which chagiga? The 14th. We get 2 days and a night. The pasuk is talking about 3 different zmanim. 2 days and a night. Boiker, the Layalin, the day before, Layalin is the night, and Boiker another day. So you have 2 days and 1 night. We just turned, sponsored by Kesher Nafshi, Zchus, for the struggling kids in pain of Klall Yisrael, and for the Refuah Shelaima of all Cholei Yisrael, especially, I forgot to get Shlomo Miller's son's name, struggling in the hospital with COVID, especially from our MDY family. Please consider joining MDY Tehillim group at tehillim.8minutedaf.com. Maybe this Chagigo Yudalid only has 1 day and 1 night. Kishu oimer bayoim rishon harei boker sheni amor. Bayoim rishon here bayoim rishon is 1. So Memela harei boker sheni amor and the boker rishon. Now the Gemara says, well, wait a minute. So bayoim rishon la boker. We have 1 and 2. There's 2 days, 1 night. Now the Gemara says, no, maybe not. Why maybe not? We just explained it's 2 days. Maybe not. So the Gemara is going to explain that in a second. Why maybe not? And where do I find a chagiga that's eaten for 2 and 1? Chutz mizu, not the chagiga of the 14th. Any other chagiga, you bring on Sukkot, Pesach, the rest of the days. Chagiga Yudalid is special. 1 and 1. Similar to who Ben Tema said. It's 1 night, 1 day, just like a Karim Pesach. Shoimer boy im neder. Oy nedava. So here's another pasuk that says, we're bringing, this is talking about a shalmei nedava. A guy brings a shlamim as stam. He wants to bring a nedava. He wants to bring a gift, Takash Baruch Hu. Brings a shlamim. Limeid al chagigas yudalit shenecheles l'shnei yomim v'layla echad. So it teaches us that this one is 2 and 1. What's going on here? Omar oy einoi ela boiker rishon. So a second ago we said, B'yom rishon is one morning. La boiker, second morning. Maybe not. Maybe it's one morning. So explains the Gemara. You already explained to me that we're talking about 3 different times, 2 days, 1 night. So the Gemara, yes, you're right. It's 3 different times. So why would I think that when it comes to the Chagiga of the 14th, he only gets 1 day? The pasuk says 2 days and a night. All of a sudden, you're telling me no, 1 day and a night. What's going on? Look, in this chart you can see it's split up into 2. There's blue and there's red. The first part is talking about 1 chagiga. The second part is talking about another chagiga. There's 2 chagigas on Pesach, that we said. One is called chagiga yidal, one is called chagiga tesvav. This one is what you're mechuyev to bring. This one is you're not mechuyev to bring, but if you don't have enough meat on the Pesach, you bring this as well. So this one, achas chagiga yidal, achas chagiga tesvav. V'zu lebakra, v'zu lebakra. The pasuk is talking about 2 mornings and 1 night, but guess what? It's not that one carbon gets 2 mornings. Each carbon gets 1 morning, 1 day and 1 night. If you're discussing the carbon, the chagiga of the Yidalid, it gets 1 morning, 1 night. Let's call it over here, the blue. And then when you're discussing the chagiga tesvav, he also gets 1 morning, 1 night. Neither of them get 2 mornings. The pasuk says 2 mornings. We're talking about 2 different karbanas. Each carbon gets 1 morning. V'zula bakra, v'zula bakra. Hada amra. And then he said, no. There's something called a chagiga that's eaten for 2 days and a night. Imkain, im neder, nedava, b'mai. So what is this guy bringing? What kind of neder? This pasuk right over here, what is it referring to? I chagigas yudalid, hoksiv bo yoim v'layla. You just told me. The 14th is over here. Only 1 day, 1 night. Over here. Only gets 1 and 1. Elo, hi, the chagigas tezvav. This pasuk im neder. This pasuk im neder nedava is talking about the tesvav guy. V'heich kula kral chagigas yidalid. And this entire pasuk is talking about the 14th. Since this pasuk cannot be talking about 2 separate korbanos, why? Because it can only be talking about a chagiga, tesvav and yudalid. Tesvav is already in this pasuk, and not in the dava. So in Mela, this pasuk is talking about yudalid, and finished. Rashi just goes on to explain why, even if you say that this pasuk is talking about yudalid, so in Manavshach, it's 2 days, 2 days and a night. Okay. At the end of the day, this pasuk is showing you that there's 3 times. In other words, 2 days, 1 night. It was 3 times, and they both apply. All 3 of them apply to 1 carbon, the chagiga of Yudalid. Great. So that's until now. But what's Rav's proof? Time b'dechsiv b'yom rishon la boiker, which is mashma. We said 2 days. B'yom rishon and boiker, 2 days, 1 night for the carbon chagiga of the Yudalid. B'yom rishon la boiker, the my boiker sheni. Hakolei chedechsiv boiker stama boiker rishon. Vavrav the loichsiv bereishis. Ask Rav Yosef. So Rav explains Rav Yosef. Ask Rav Yosef, if it just says boiker on its own, I know it means I know it means the first day. So why does Rav Yosef have to come on to this whole drasha? Where's that drasha? This was Rav Yosef asked a question. Why do we have to come on to the drasha of Bereshis? This is extra. This drush of Reish is extra. The fact that it says Chagi at Boiker means the first day. I don't need Reish to tell me it's the first morning. How do I know it? From the last 25 lines. So we said that in this pasuk itself, Boiker would mean the first, but because it also says Bayom Rishon, so it means the second. But if it wouldn't say Bayom Rishon, it would just say La Boiker, it would mean the first morning, only one morning. I don't need the word Reishis to tell me that Boiker means the first morning. How do you see it? From this pasuk. That's how Rav explains Rav Yosef's kasha. And he remains with the kasha. Says the Mishnah. You're going to love the sponsorship. The official Mishnah, sponsored by Avi Kamiansky, in honor of Mordechai Ashkenazi for all the chesed that he does. Says the Mishnah, Ha-Pesach sheshochtoi shaloi lishmoi b'Shabbos. So, we digressed to Chagiga. That was just yesterday. And the Gemara explained why. Because we're already talking about carrying a korban Pesach and removing a ward of a korban Pesach. So we spoke about a Chagiga, and the halachas have to do with that. It's similar to those halachas of Arkava, the things that you do Erev Yontif. Fine. Now we're going right back to korban Pesach. And we actually discussed the Lishma. You have to have in mind when you say, I'm bringing this korban Pesach, I'm doing it L'Shem Pesach. You're on Shabbos Kodesh. You allowed to bring a korban Pesach? Yes. You allowed to shech the korban Pesach? Yes. Those are the halachas we learned. So the person is bringing a korban Pesach, and he thinks to himself, you know what? I'm not bringing a korban Pesach. I am bringing a shlamim. What did he just do? He ruined this korban chatas. But what about Shabbos? He just shechted a korban for no reason on Shabbos, which is Issa D'Oraisa. Yeah. Well, Yisroel could also shecht. Yisroel shechted, let's say. Doesn't matter. Now, what's his shoygig? So Rashi explains, he didn't realize that it's osur to shecht on Shabbos shaloi l'shma. That he didn't realize. Okay. Chayev, olav, chatas. He must bring a chatas for that maisa of shchita, which was shaloi l'tzarech. There was no reason for him to shecht shaloi l'shma. If it was a korban Pesach, he allowed to do it. But he didn't do it. Okay. Sharkol Zvachim, let's say he brings in a korban shlamim, not a korban Pesach. And he says this korban shlamim, sheshachton l'shem Pesach. You know what? I am going to bring this shlamim as a korban Pesach. We said it's no good. And in this case, Rashi explains that he forgot that it's Shabbos. Before he didn't say that. Before he forgot that this is asur to shech shaloi l'shma on Shabbos. Im einon ru'uyin, let's say he brings a giant bull. Who brings? You see millions of Jews with the tiny little sheep. Some have goats, some of them are brown goats, some of them are white sheep. They're all about 1.5 feet tall. This guy shows up with a 2,000-pound bull with horns. Shalom Aleichem, I'm here to bring my korban Pesach. What is that? That's a oinus. That's a amnesia, whatever it is, shoygig. It's not a oinus. Guys, something's wrong over here. Imeinam ru'uyin chayav. We're going to see how it fits in. Because the beautiful svarei of Rabbi Yeshua, toya b'dvar mitzvah. A person thinks he's accomplishing a mitzvah, and in fact it's not a mitzvah, it's an aveira. You can't punish a guy like that. Guy comes, he's shuckling a lulav. I don't know if it applies so much to a lulav. But he's actually performing a mitzvah. He's bringing a korban, but it's the wrong one at the wrong time. You're going to go give him malchus nebuch. That's good when he brings a nice sheep. But something that's not roi. He brings in a keva. You missed it. Yesterday we had the riddle. What if he shechted a korban Pesach, and in the korban Pesach there's a ben pekua. There's a baby. Could you eat that baby for the korban Pesach? As he's bringing the korban Pesach, he shechs the korban Pesach, and there's a baby inside. And what's the answer? The answer is, you can't bring it in keva. Great. Stumps everybody.
What if it identifies?
Everybody heard you, but I'm not going to repeat it. Identification. If a korban identifies, he identifies. What if you identify as a zebra? Are you a zebra? Fine. Refuah pointer. So, Vim ru'in hein, Rabbi Lezer mechayev chatos. What if this is roy? You bring a sheep, but it happens to be a shlamim sheep, nothing to do with the korban Pesach. It's roy. So Rabbi Lezer says, Yechayev chatos, Rabbi Yeshua pointer. On this case, Rabbi Yeshua says different than a bull. Over here, the guy's in Nebuch, he forgot, and he's trying to do a mitzvah, great, but you can't say he made a mistake, such a big mistake that he thought, like, you bring a bull? That not. Omer b'lezer. Ma'ima Pesach shu muter l'shmoi. You have a Korban Pesach, and it's muter to shech today. What did he do? He flipped it in his mind what the designation is. But he flipped it from a Korban Pesach to Shlamim. He's chayav, he has to bring a chatos. That's the first part of the Mishnah. You bring something that you cannot bring today. He has a Korban Shlamim sitting aside. Everybody knows you don't bring a Shlamim on Shabbos for a Korban. You can't bring a Shlamim, period. Today is not a day for Shlamim. And he switched it to a Korban Pesach, certainly should be over. If you bring a Korban that's mutter for me to bring today, it's mutter. But I switched it in my mind, I made it asur. So something that's asur for me to bring today is a Shlamim. And I switched it in my mind to make it mutter, certainly should be asur. Very interesting. Another back and forth in Mishnayos. And again, this is between the two friends, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua. Both Rabbeim of Rabbi Kiva. In Korban Pesach, he switched it to something that's not allowed. He's trying to be a good guy. He took something that's wrong and he made it good. Okay, it's not the right thing to do. But he tried to do something good. He tried to be positive. He tried to bring a Korban Pesach. Mashenkin, a guy that takes a Korban Pesach and tries to be a bad guy. He says, oh, today I'm going to bring Shlamim. What do you bring Shlamim? You did something wrong. I'll prove it to you. You know what? Let's stop over here. I know it's in the middle of a Mishnah. It's a long Mishnah, but it's kind of a new sugya. We'll stop right over here. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. סליחה, למען טיב הרי. תיזה אני גופן נפשי, ודבר יכולתי. שלא אדלם שמון הבגי שמון הבגי. אחרי נקבל סיסור, נצחנו בסוף השם, והיום דברים ביום הבאים, ולשם מגיעים אנחנו נמצאים בצורה למלך ומפעל לדברים של ולשתו. באגד לא זמן קרוב למה אומר. Hold on a second. Avrumin Leibovitz, Shalom Aleichem, was Herzach? Oh, let me put you louder. Now I hear you.
Moshie Apter's almost the one.
Moshie Apter, wow. Why do I hear myself twice? Oh.
Sure, you ever coming back?